All right, hello everyone. I am here today with Miss Wright, who I finished a classroom observation with her yesterday, and absolutely wonderful classroom observation. And we just did our debrief, but we're going to talk a little bit about class climate. But before I do that, I want to congratulate Miss Wright. She is our latest National Board Certified teacher. Congratulations.
Yay, thank you so much.
Can you tell me, though, a little bit about what was the benefit of going through that process to you? So I'm sure there are probably a lot of people who are curious about National Board Certification. Should they do it or not do it? What did it do for you?
I told people that if I passed, I would have a really high opinion of National Board, and if I didn't, I would. So I still maintain that. If I had not passed, I would have been devastated, but it was a lot of work. And it was very, very reflective work.
Yes.
I think as teachers, we have so many items on our to-do list. You know, we have to take attendance, we have to manage discipline, we have to build relationships, grade papers. And it's kind of rare that we're in a situation where someone says, tell me about how you taught today. Was it effective?
And reflect on that.
Yeah. Are you going to do something with it? How will you know that the student learned it? How will you know when they learned it when you do the intervention? And so just having to do a really deep dive into your own practice was really beneficial.
I felt like it was the best PD I ever had, you know, because I had to reflect on my own practice.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's get down to classroom culture. Assess your classroom culture, and what have you done intentionally to build it?
Yeah.
Because I want to give props to it. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
But what did you do intentionally to build that?
So the class that you observed was a pretty small section.
Yeah, it's real small.
And there are some teachers who love that, and then some teachers who are scared of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the first things actually, is to lean into your personality and to know who you are as a teacher. And you do kind of have to tweak that depending on who you're standing in front of. You have to know, are you going to talk about your favorite TV shows, or is that not going to land with this audience? But when I was a beginning teacher, I think I was still figuring that out, of who I am and who I am in front of students and how do they perceive me. And so at this point in my career, I feel like I'm pretty confident with that.
Comfortable with yourself.
Yeah. So if I tell a story and no one laughs, that's okay. I still am confident in who I am. And so different teachers are going to have different styles of doing this, but I feel like I'm myself in front of my students. And then one of the practices that's been most beneficial to me, I have to give props to Liz Prather. Her book, the Project-Based Writing book, really introduced me to writing conferences. And I know that Liz Prather did not invent writing conferences, but that book really inspired me to change the way that I do.
I'm going to link to that book down below, so if you're interested in that book, you can check that out.
So doing the writing conference allows me to talk to a student face-to-face, one-on-one, about something that is of their choice and that is not charged. So it's not, tell me why you're struggling in school.
Right.
That
goes well.
Yeah, exactly. It's tell me why you think NFL players shouldn't kneel during the national anthem. Let's talk about that. Let's figure out your claim. Or
so that is your opportunity to show concern about that student's values, their beliefs, their opinion.
Yes.
That's building a relationship.
Yeah, and just face-to-face time. I read something at some point that asked teachers to say every student's name at least once every day. To look in their eyes and say, hello, Mr. Royster.
Right.
It communicates respect that we just kind of take for granted. But if you can make that face-to-face connection, and then if you think that has value, imagine a conversation. Imagine if I say, I really want to make sure that you grow as a student today. That just invests so much, and really
if you're letting half the class blend into the background, your class culture is going to suffer.
Which that is something, and I bet we'll talk about this later, but that's something that I've kind of had to let go to some degree, is that sometimes we're playing a long game here.
Yes.
Both for our career, but also for the academic year. And sometimes it's worth neglecting a couple of students to get to a real place of relationship building with another student. Which doesn't mean that I have no expectations for those students who are in the background, but it means I know how I'm using my time, and I'm okay that this student isn't going to get me, but this student's really going to get me today.
How do you build your expectations? And what role do your expectations play in building your class culture?
I think I'm really, really intentional about what I expect, as much as I can be.
Elaborate on that. What do you mean by that? Or maybe give us one of your
Okay.
key expectations and how that plays in.
So the key expectation, and this is a relatively new one, but it has completely changed my classroom culture, is independent reading at the beginning of the block.
Okay.
And so every day the bell rings, they're supposed to be quiet, put away their phones,
Right.
get out their books, start reading, soft music is playing. And so for one thing, they know exactly what they're supposed to do.
I think that's big, yeah.
Yeah, and then for another thing, it's very calm. And so they've just come in from the chaos of the hallway.
Hall change, yeah.
And I don't add more chaos by saying, everybody quiet down, be quiet, hush, let's get started. Here's a new thing.
Yeah, let me hand these papers out.
Yeah, they know exactly what they're doing. So that can look different depending on the class, but they have something that they start on right away.
I've really, as I've gotten older, I really see that first 10 minutes of class, it really does set the tone for the rest of the class. And if you don't have that first 10 minutes down, it's going to be a struggle.
Yes.
For the rest of the 80 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my personality, I'm not an entertainer, so I can't entertain for 90 minutes 3 times a day. And colleagues who can don't need to start with quiet music and calm. Like,
It's a show.
And that, but I always wanted to be that person, and at some point I realized I'm not.
That's not.
I need to start with calm.
Yeah. How do you find the boundary for pushing kids enough? Not pushing them too much, because you obviously don't want to, but you got to keep them in the game, but you also want them to grow. How do you find that balance?
Gosh, it's a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
You know?
It has to be very individualized. You have to know intuitively, I think.
Well, yeah, intuitively, but I would also say with a hefty amount of background knowledge. So I try not to challenge students in front of the whole classroom.
Right.
I try to make that private if I can. If you can keep it positive, it's fine to always tell students, remember we're reading right now. Remember that we're doing this, to keep it positive.
You have to.
But to say, why can't you do this?
The tone that comes out of your mouth is so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 different ways to get them on track.
Yes, absolutely. So it's much different to basically set up a challenge in front of an audience than it is to walk to the student and say, I know you want to be successful today, let's do this.
Yeah, it's also about showing respect for that kid too. If you're treating them like they're 8 years old, they might respond.
Yeah.
Like they're 8 years old.
8 years old, yeah.
So you do a lot of whole class discussion, and the discussion this day was really in-depth, really big idea stuff. How do you create kids who want to participate in that and do that well?
I think that the relationship piece is the foundation, because students have to know that you want them to take academic risks and that this is a safe place to take academic risks.
That's big.
So even if you don't get the answer right, you know that your comments are still welcome. I still want you to grow. And I think students are really desperate for feedback as well. I think that they get upset with it if it's not what they expect. But I think deep down, they don't come here to just get the gold sticker on every single thing that they do.
Right.
They actually want to improve. So giving them valuable feedback helps. I give a structure for these are the kind of comments that we make during a class discussion. This is what it looks like. I try to push students or pull them back so that we can create that and let them know up front what we're trying to accomplish as a class.
I really think by asking a lot of open-ended questions, you're creating an environment where they can take risks. There's not a right or wrong.
Yeah.
When you start off the school year and everything's right or wrong, the kid that feels like he's wrong all the time doesn't want to participate. And then the pattern is set. Right. So yeah, I think that carries a ton of weight when you're asking them to chime in on their values and their beliefs. So I really like that. How do you manage those who dominate the discussion and those who want to hang back? How do you balance that out? Because you don't want to squelch the kid who wants to say something every second, but you also want to allow time for the people who are more quiet. How do you build that in?
Yeah. I think you can talk to the whole class about what you want this to look like. And this is really important. If you can use real examples that touch close to home, such as Have you ever been in a class where one person dominated the whole conversation and everybody else was really bored? As long as you're not describing the very class that just happened, that's safe to say.
Yeah.
Because everyone can just imagine themselves hypothetically in whatever favorable position they want to, right?
Yeah.
And then you set, okay, so let's not do that. So if you've talked a few times, pull it back or let somebody else. And you can even say, if you all received a grade on this that was the same grade based on how the class, participated in this discussion, we want that to be a favorable grade.
Right.
You could grade it, but and in terms of the students who are kind of pulling back, I think you have to keep in mind the context of their life. So if you think about something that a day that you've just not wanted to show up, and if a teacher had been calling you out publicly on that day, they might be having that day.
Not a great day.
Yeah. Now that can't be every day.
Right.
But my English 2 class is not the most important thing in their life. And if I forget that they're a real person with real issues, then I can deal with that the wrong way. Or worse, take it personally. I didn't have 100% participation, so that lesson was a failure. And I kind of struggle with that thinking, because I think when we were trained.
But again, back to what you said earlier, taking the long view.
Yes.
You have to really take the long view.
Yeah.
And over time, and some kids are just better listeners than talkers. And I think it's okay. But always, you got to create the climate that allows for it, but the kid has to find their comfort level.
Yeah. And then one more thing is providing another opportunity for them to participate if they weren't able to in class.
Okay.
So can you...
Not necessarily verbally.
Right. Can you post a comment on Google Classroom? So not only am I asking you to do something, it's public.
Right, that's good.
So now all the students can see
you did that live in class, and I really like that.
Yeah.
It kind of it gave them something to think about in advance of the in-depth discussion, so they could bring something to the table if they felt comfortable. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So as a result of this lesson, kids talk a lot about from the heart, because you were doing a mice and men and talking about status. So what did you learn about your kids as a result of the lesson, and are you going to do anything with that?
Well, you kind of learn a couple of different categories of things. You learn socially, emotionally how they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't think we focus on that enough at the high school level. I don't know many people who would say, my high school years, I was really in control of my emotions. Yeah. I made responsible decisions.
I felt great every day about myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so I think we need to do more of that. I do, and I think that talking openly is just, it doesn't happen enough. You know, I told, in the context of a discussion, I said something about being insecure as a high schooler, and I really got wide eyes, like, you? An adult? Really?
Right.
And so without divulging so much that you are making your past their burden, you can make connections and you can acknowledge the season of life that they're in.
That's great.
And it's emotionally very difficult.
Yeah.
Now, academically, the most valuable thing that National Boards process taught me was that when you do something, you have to prove that students learned something and that you're going to do something with it. And so with this particular...
It's not all loosey-goosey. We have to get down to brass tacks.
Exactly. And that you can't just assume that because you had a nice lesson that you felt good about, that students took away anything.
Right.
And so with that discussion, it was all kind of leading up to an analytical essay that we're going to write. And so they'll have another opportunity to show me that they learned what I'm expecting them to learn throughout this entire unit.
Well, it was a great class discussion, and I hope the kids felt like it was as well. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for having a great class climate. So guys, if you have questions about building a class climate, or if you have comments about the class climate, go ahead and leave those down below. We'd love to see that. And Ms. Wright, I just want to thank you for being you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate your support. If you've made it this far, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and support the channel. Share and like this video. Also, check out this video right over here. I picked it out. I think you were going to like it. There's a mystery video picked out by YouTube right down here. Check it out as well. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I will see you in the next video.